Everyone, all in Arrowhead here. Week 3 brought plenty of drama, upsets, and confirmations about which teams are starting to find their identity. We saw the 49ers hold off the Cardinals in a nail-biter, the Bears dominate the Cowboys in a big statement win, and the Seahawks absolutely steamroll the Saints to move back into contention. The Colts and Eagles are rolling through the league undefeated, while a handful of teams like the Dolphins and Texans are still searching for their first win. Momentum is everything in the NFL, and entering Week 4, we're starting to see patterns emerge. Which teams can capitalize on early season confidence, and which ones are left scrambling to reset before falling further behind in the playoff picture. There are also some intriguing matchups this week, including international games, divisional battles, and teams trying to right the ship after early losses. Whether it's the NFC West getting hot or the AFC South still figuring itself out, there's a lot on the line. Let's get into the games! Seattle comes into this matchup at 2-1 after absolutely dismantling the Saints 44-13 in Week 3. The Seahawks looked sharp on both sides of the ball, with their offense clicking in the passing and running game, while the defense created turnovers and shut down New Orleans' big play threats. Confidence is high, and the team's momentum could carry them into another strong performance. Arizona, meanwhile, is 2-1 after a heartbreaking 16-15 loss to the 49ers, a game that came down to the wire and exposed how thin the margin for error is in the NFC West. The Cardinals still have the talent to compete, but they'll need to play nearly flawless football to keep up with Seattle's speed and energy. This matchup will likely hinge on whether the Seahawks can sustain long drives, keep the pressure off their quarterback, and continue to capitalize on turnovers. Given Seattle's momentum and the Cardinals' narrow defeat in Week 3, I'm picking the Seahawks to move to 3-1, while Arizona falls to 2-2 and faces a critical test in the next stretch of the season. The first international game of the season takes us to Dublin, Ireland, where the Vikings and Steelers meet in a matchup of two proud franchises trying to solidify their playoff footing early. Minnesota enters at 2-1, fresh off an absolute demolition of the Bengals 48-10, where their offense looked untouchable and their defense finally put together a complete performance. The Steelers are also 2-1, grinding out a 21-14 win over the Patriots in a physical slugfest. This matchup is fascinating because of the contrast in styles. The Vikings thrive on explosive plays and quick strike drives, while the Steelers want to slow things down and win in the trenches. Playing on neutral turf adds even more intrigue since travel and atmosphere could affect rhythm. Ultimately, I think Minnesota's firepower is too much, and if they find early success through the air, Pittsburgh won't have the offensive horsepower to keep pace. I'm taking the Vikings to move to 3-1, while the Steelers drop to 2-2 in a hard-fought international showcase. The Commanders come into Week 4 riding the wave of their best performance of the season, a 41-24 beatdown of the Raiders that showed just how balanced this team can be when both sides of the ball click. At 2-1, they're starting to build confidence in their ability to dictate games and lean on their improving offense. The Falcons, meanwhile, are at disarray at 1-2, having been shut out 30-0 by Carolina in Week 3. Their offense looked completely out of sync, and against Washington's front seven, things don't get much easier. Atlanta will need to protect the football and find some rhythm on the ground if they want to avoid another one-sided affair. But given the way Washington has been flying around, I see them controlling the game early and never looking back. The Commanders improve to 3-1 and solidify themselves as a team to watch, while the Falcons sink to 1-3 and find themselves fading in the NFC South. The Chargers enter Week 4 red-hot at 3-0 after a narrow 23-20 win over the Broncos, proving once again that they know how to close out tight games. This team has shown balance on both sides of the ball, with an efficient offense that can sustain drives and a defense capable of holding up in crunch time. Their confidence is growing with each win, and they're starting to look like a serious AFC contender. The Giants, meanwhile, have had a nightmare start to the season. They're 0-3 after falling 22-9 to the Chiefs in Week 3, and the offenses look stagnant, struggling to finish drives and putting way too much pressure on their defense. Playing against a well-rounded team like Los Angeles, New York will need a near-perfect game to even keep things competitive. This one feels like two teams headed in opposite directions. The Chargers with momentum and belief, and the Giants searching for answers. I'm picking the Chargers to keep rolling, moving to 4-0, while the Giants fall to 0-4 and continue what's quickly becoming a lost season. This is one of those AFC South games that may not draw the national spotlight, but it's going to mean everything for two teams searching for their first win. Tennessee is 0-3 after a rough loss to the Colts, where they gave up 41 points and just looked outmatched on both sides of the ball. Their identity, pounding the rock and playing tough defense, just hasn't shown up this season, and now the pressure's mounting. Houston's also 0-3 after falling 17-10 to Jacksonville, but they've been hanging around in games and showing flashes of fight, especially with their young talent starting to settle in. This is the type of divisional matchup where energy and urgency matter more than raw talent, and right now Houston feels like the group more likely to put it all together for 4 quarters. I think the Texans finally break through here, winning a close one at home to get to 1-3, while Tennessee slides to a brutal 0-4 and faces serious questions about their direction. This might be the most anticipated matchup of the week. Two undefeated NFC teams colliding. The Eagles are 3-0 after a 33-26 victory over the Rams, and their offense looks as dynamic as ever, spreading the ball around and finding ways to attack every level of the field. Tampa Bay, though, has been the surprise of the season so far. At 3-0, they've shown they can win close games like their 29-27 nail-biter over the Jets in Week 3, and they've leaned heavily on timely defense and clutch moments. The storyline here is whether Tampa Bay's defense can contain Philly's balanced attack. Few teams can keep up with the Eagles' mix of speed and physicality for 4 quarters. Both teams are playing with confidence, but Philly's depth and versatility give them the edge in what could be a playoff preview. I'm picking the Eagles to remain unbeaten at 4-0, while the Buccaneers take their first loss and slip to 3-1. The Panthers finally gave their fans something to cheer about in Week 3, dominating the Falcons 30-0 to earn their first win of the season and move to 1-2. That kind of defensive performance is exactly what they needed to build momentum, and now they'll try to carry it forward against a Patriots team that's struggling for answers. New England dropped to 1-2 after falling 21-14 to the Steelers, and their offense continues to look stale, unable to finish drives consistently. This game could come down to which defense dictates terms, and right now Carolina looks like the more confident unit. If the Panthers establish the run and control time of possession, the Patriots will be forced to play catch-up, which hasn't gone well for them so far. I like Carolina to ride the momentum from Week 3, move to 2-2, and hand New England their second straight loss, leaving the Pats at 1-3. New Orleans comes into this matchup at 0-3 after a brutal 44-13 loss to the Seahawks. The Saints are still trying to find consistency offensively, and their young quarterback has shown flashes but struggles under pressure. Defensively, New Orleans has been overmatched against speed and high-powered passing attacks, which puts them at a disadvantage against a team like Buffalo. The Bills, meanwhile, are rolling at 3-0 after a 31-21 win over the Dolphins, proving once again that Josh Allen and this offense are firing on all cylinders. Buffalo's defense has also been opportunistic, creating turnovers and shutting down opposing quarterbacks in key moments. This is a huge test for New Orleans, as they'll need to limit mistakes, keep drives alive, and find a rhythm against a balanced Bills team. On paper, Buffalo is the stronger, more complete team, and I'm picking them to move to 4-0, while the Saints fall to 0-4 and face increasing pressure to turn things around. The Browns are 1-2, but they're coming off a massive confidence boost after upsetting the Packers 13-10 in Week 3. That win showed Cleveland's defense can grind out victories, even against some of the league's top offenses, and if their running game gets going, they can control the pace. The Lions, meanwhile, looked explosive in their 38-30 win over the Ravens, moving to 2-1 and reminding everyone that their offense is among the most dangerous in football when it's firing on all cylinders. Jared Goff continues to play efficiently, and Detroit's young playmakers are coming into their own. This matchup feels like strength versus strength, Cleveland's defense against Detroit's offense. But given the Lions' momentum and ability to make explosive plays in bunches, I see them pulling ahead late. I'm picking Detroit to move to 3-1 and solidify their spot as one of the NFC's toughest teams, while Cleveland drops to 1-3 despite showing they can hang with anyone. Jacksonville enters this game at 2-1 after a 17-10 win over the Texans, showing that their young roster has fight and the ability to execute in tight games. Trevor Lawrence continues to develop into a leader, but the Jaguars will face their stiffest test yet against the undefeated 49ers, who are 3-0 after a nail-biting 16-15 win over the Cardinals. San Francisco's offense is methodical, with Mac Jones spreading the ball effectively and Christian McCaffrey carrying a heavy load both as a runner and receiver. Defensively, the 49ers are disciplined and opportunistic, capable of forcing turnovers and shutting down opposing plays in the red zone. This matchup will come down to whether Jacksonville can protect Lawrence, control the line of scrimmage, and create enough big plays to keep pace. San Francisco's experience in close games and their balanced roster give them the edge. I'm taking the 49ers to remain unbeaten at 4-0, while the Jaguars drop to 2-2. The Colts are rolling into Week 4 undefeated at 3-0, fresh off a dominant 41-20 win over the Titans. Indianapolis has shown an impressive balance between a strong running game and a quarterback who's making smart, timely decisions. Their defense is opportunistic, and when they get stops, they turn them into points quickly. The Rams, meanwhile, are 2-1 after a hard-fought loss to the Eagles, and while they've shown flashes of the high-powered offense we expected, they're still trying to find consistency against strong defenses. This matchup is all about whether the Rams can slow down the Colts' balanced attack while finding ways to get their own offense going without turning the ball over.
Perfect.
On paper, Indianapolis looks more complete and more confident right now, and I think that edge carries them through. I'm picking the Colts to remain unbeaten at 4-0, while the Rams drop to 2-2 and have to regroup before heading back into the thick of the NFC playoff race. Chicago comes into this game riding high after a statement-making 31-14 victory over the Cowboys, moving to 1-2 and showing that this team can execute at a high level when both sides of the ball click. The offense looked efficient and balanced, and the defense dominated the trenches, forcing turnovers and shutting down Dallas's run game. That kind of confidence boost can carry over, especially heading into a matchup with a Raiders team that has struggled for consistency this season. Las Vegas is 1-2 after their 41-24 loss to the Commanders, a game that exposed issues on both sides of the ball, from a porous pass protection to a secondary that had trouble containing dynamic playmakers. The Raiders are talented, but their rhythm has been disrupted, and they'll need near-perfect execution to keep up with the Bears squad that's finding momentum. Chicago also has the advantage of a defense that can take control of the game early, forcing Las Vegas to play catch-up. I expect the Bears to ride their confidence, move to 2-2, and control this game from start to finish, while the Raiders fall to 1-3 and are left searching for answers heading into the middle of the season. The Ravens enter Week 4 at 1-2 after a 38-30 loss to the Lions in a game where their defense struggled to contain big plays and their offense just couldn't quite keep up. Baltimore has shown flashes this season, but inconsistency has been the story. Some drives look sharp and explosive, while others stall out far too easily. The Chiefs, on the other hand, got their first win of the season in Week 3, improving to 1-2 with a 22-9 victory over the Giants. Kansas City's defense looked much improved, controlling the tempo and taking pressure off Patrick Mahomes in the offense. This game feels like a measuring stick for both teams. Baltimore needs to prove they can finish against playoff-caliber competition, while Kansas City wants to prove their Week 3 win wasn't a one-off. With the Chiefs finding some rhythm and playing at home, I'm picking them to ride the momentum, move to 2-2, and push Baltimore down to 1-3. Green Bay comes into this matchup at 2-1, reeling slightly from a tough 13-10 loss to the Browns in Week 3. That game exposed some cracks in the Packers' offense. The running game struggled to find consistency, and the passing attack couldn't capitalize in critical situations. That said, Green Bay's defense remains one of the more reliable units in the league, capable of creating turnovers and keeping them in tight games. Dallas, on the other hand, is 1-2 after a blowout loss to the Bears, a 31-14 defeat that raised serious questions about offensive line play, quarterback rhythm, and overall team consistency. The Cowboys are talented, but when the offense stalls, they've struggled to respond. This matchup will hinge on which team can establish the run and protect the quarterback while minimizing mistakes. Green Bay has the balance and depth to control the tempo, particularly if their defense can make early stops and force Dallas into long third downs. I'm taking the Packers to bounce back, improve to 3-1, while the Cowboys drop to 1-3 and face mounting pressure to stabilize their season. The Jets are reeling at 0-3 after a tough loss to the Buccaneers, a 29-27 heartbreaker where they fought hard but just couldn't close it out. Their young roster is still trying to find a rhythm offensively, and their defense has struggled to contain explosive plays. Miami, meanwhile, is also sitting at 0-3 after falling to Buffalo 31-21. The Dolphins have shown flashes. Their speed on the outside can stretch a defense, but they've had trouble sustaining drives and protecting the football. This is a critical game for both teams because someone needs to get that first win to stop the slide. Playing in Miami, the home field energy could be a boost, but the Jets' resilience and the chance to make a statement might give them the edge. I'm taking the Jets to finally get in the win column, moving to 1-3, while Miami falls to 0-4 and continues to search for answers. Cincinnati comes into this matchup at 2-1 after a tough 48-10 loss to the Vikings, a game that exposed some vulnerabilities on both sides of the ball. Jake Browning and the offense will be looking to rebound quickly, as this is a critical matchup where momentum can shift fast. The Broncos are 1-2 after a narrow 23-20 loss to the Chargers, showing that they can hang with high-powered teams but still struggle to finish drives consistently. This game will hinge on which team can establish control early. The Bengals need to protect Browning and get their playmakers involved, while the Broncos will rely on balanced play calling and a disciplined defense to keep things close. On paper, Cincinnati's talent and offensive potential give them the edge, but Denver's ability to compete in tight games means that this could be a close contest. I'm picking the Bengals to bounce back, moving to 3-1 while the Broncos fall to 1-3 and face mounting pressure to find consistency heading into Week 5.